Gardening from the Ground Up with Corey, Brad, and Cody.
Welcome back. In this episode of Gardening from the Ground Up, we're going to show you how to care for your new transplants and some basic do's and don'ts as we go through the growing season. We're going to pay particular attention to watering and how to avoid diseases in our new plants. We've done all of the soil prep and fertilization and getting plants in the ground, but now we've finally gotten to the point where it's time to take care of plants. And if you don't have a green thumb, as they say, this is when it'll show. Disease, insects, a spring hailstorm, a late freeze, deer, rabbits, weed eaters, grandkids, there's lots of pitfalls along the way to making it to that ripe red tomato. Not all diseases and insects have to be managed by spraying. That's just one tool in the toolbox. Many of these problems we can work around by employing what we'll call good cultural practices. One of the first practices to consider is mulching around your new plants. We're going to use straw. Do not use hay. Hay often contains seeds of plants we don't want. The goal here is to conserve moisture, reduce undesirable weed growth, and prevent soil from splashing up onto our stems and leaves. Why do we want to avoid that, you might ask? Just as much as our soil gives nutrients and holds water for our plants, it also harbors organisms that can cause disease. Fungal disease pathogens, such as verticillium and fusarium wilt, and bacterial disease like bacterial wilt all reside in the soil, waiting for a host. The more we can reduce soil splashing up onto our plants and the faster we can get leaves dried out after watering or rain, the better chance we're giving our plants to avoid infection. So do consider mulching. That brings us to our next cultural practice. Irrigation or watering. As much as possible, avoid overhead watering. Those big droplets are splashing soil up onto the lower parts of our plants. Remember, that's a good recipe for disease. Soaker or drip hoses are your friend here. Those can be found in any garden center. Simply weave them throughout the garden, ensuring that when turned on, all plants are able to get a good drink. Another thing, the longer a leaf stays wet, the higher the likelihood of disease is. So it's preferred to water in the morning so the plants can dry out quickly versus watering when you just get off work or when you get around to it or right before you go to bed. Those plants tend to stay wet all night. Not good. And the last thing on watering, don't overdo it. More times than not, overwatering is a much bigger problem for new gardeners than not providing enough. Our mulch is helping hold in some of that moisture for longer. A little water stress isn't the worst thing in the world for garden plants. It forces them to put down deeper roots, making them more conditioned to handle water stress throughout the year. The plants will let you know if they need water. A little drooping, wilted look to the leaves is your signal to break out the soaker hoses. In the early spring, typically rainfall alone will take care of water needs. As we get into June, July, and August, expect to water more than once per week. A total of 1 inch per week total of rainfall and irrigation is a good estimate. And as we get into those hotter months, that will increase. Again, the appearance of the plants will let you know if they're thirsty. As far as fertilizer goes, remember, we fertilized our garden prior to planting and we gave them a shot of starter solution at planting. Don't overdo it on fertilizer. Constantly feeding plants with too much nitrogen especially will cause them to produce lots of vegetative growth and not much in the way of flowers, which ultimately is where your vegetable comes from. Also, over-fertilizing can be a contributing factor to disease problems. Leave the fertilizer in the bag or bottle. Maybe 6 weeks or so after planting and around the time the plants are flowering, they could handle another shot of a water-soluble fertilizer like Miracle-Gro. Use a complete fertilizer that contains nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and follow the direction on the packaging for whatever product you purchase. The last thing we'll mention here is the use of fungicides. Vegetable plants get diseases. It's just the way of the world. We're trying to grow plants that aren't truly native to Arkansas, so they don't handle our native diseases all that well. All of our cultural practices we put into place are to help avoid those diseases, but sometimes we need a little more help. This is where fungicides come into play, and the goal behind the use of a fungicide is primarily prevention. In the case of garden disease, fungicides can't do much to save a diseased plant that's too far gone. When it comes to disease, prevention is key. The most common readily available vegetable fungicides are products that contain the active ingredient chlorothalonil. That's where we're going to apply here on our garden. It can be found on the garden shelf in nearly any garden center or nursery you wish to go to. If you wish to use an organic fungicide, look to disease products that contain Bacillus subtilis, A good fungicide spray schedule can really help deter diseases, especially in a wet year. Start application soon after planting and continue every 7 to 10 days. Once it gets into the drier part of the season, it's not as critical. Some fungicides have to be mixed. Some are ready to use right out of the bottle. With any product, follow the labeled directions regarding mixing, maximum application rates, and the wait time before harvesting, commonly referred to as the pre-harvest interval. Some sprays, even the organic ones, have a minimum number of days you should wait from the time the plants were last sprayed until they're harvested. And as always, we're here to help diagnose those diseases and provide you with recommendations. Our plant disease clinic provides disease diagnosis at no charge. Check with your local county extension agent for assistance and see the home garden section in our publication MP 154, Arkansas Plant Disease Control Products Guide, for more recommendations. Stay tuned for our next episode. We'll discuss basic care throughout the growing season, like insect management, tomato staking, and more weed control.